All right, so that is started. And then just so you guys know, once we finish today, I will send the recording over to someone in our marketing department who will put it, do all the fancy tech things that need done, and then we upload it to it's uploaded to YouTube, but it's where I can't think of the word, but where no one else can view it except those with the link. So I would just be emailing you all the link, and then you'd be able to access that. All right, so we had just gone over our all tools page here. A couple other things I want to discuss before we jump into the analytics, just a couple of things here. So we have this sidebar, our side panel here. So there are a couple things in here that are new to our updated platform here, but new to you guys as well. So there are a couple different analytics around JobsEQ where you can save the queries that you have worked on. So within those analytics, you can access your saved queries, but now all of your saved queries will end up under the Save tab. Any that you have saved or that have been shared with you, which we'll go over some of those options shortly. And then we also have this Recents tab. So some of the analytics, you may need to spec out your query with filters and different settings, etc. And maybe you get that all specced out and your web browser refreshes for some reason, or you're disconnected, whatever it might be. That last instance of the analytic that you're in will be able to be found under this recent queries and reports. So you won't have to go back through and spec it all out again just because you lost connection. They'll be here for you. And then as of right now, I believe we're saving up to a year out. So maybe this, you're like, hey, I worked on a project back in March, and I know I utilized this analytic. Want to make sure my query is all the same. You'd be able to go back and look at those as well. So just to point that out. All right, so then back to our homepage here. So to get started, we are going to take a look at an industry analytic, and we're going to take a look at industry snapshot. So industry snapshot is really great for looking at overarching trends within a region, within the industries. And then we can also utilize it to dive down into specific industries at a much more detailed level as well. So our first step is going to be to pick a region. Within URI's license and such, I saw we had this Milwaukee, Wisconsin MSA. We can look at an MSA. We could go a step lower with those regions and look at some counties. We can look at ZICTAs. If we're unfamiliar, ZICTA stands for Zip Code Tabulation Area, and it's essentially zip codes equivalents, but where zip codes are run by the Postal Service, ZICTAs are just a little bit more consistent. So is there a particular region we'd like to take a look at to get started? We can stick with the MSA.
Yeah, that's one of our areas. If anybody wants to suggest a region, that's fine. And we can go with Milwaukee.
Yeah.
Sounds good. Thank you. All right, so we are looking at the Milwaukee MSA here. Next would be to choose an industry to take a look into. We're going to start with total all industries. And we are going to look at the 2-digit NAICS level to look at those overarching sectors. Are we familiar with NAICS codes?
Yes.
Yes.
Cool.
Industry codes. Yeah.
Yep. Awesome. So we're going to leave that at that 2-digit so we can look at the industry sectors to start. And you can also take a look into different employment types. So to start, we're going to look at total employment. But as you work through these, if you're interested in a specific sector of employment, you can zone in on that. So whether you're looking for federal, state, local employment, private, self-employed, you can break out the employment by those different employment types. Alrighty, so oops, I'm clicking the wrong buttons. All right, so this is our initial pool here. We're looking at our Milwaukee, Wisconsin MSA, and the data is currently for 2025 Q1. Each row within our table is going to correspond to the industry all the way to the left. And the table is going to sort by highest employment concentration. So our largest concentration of employment within our MSA is within the healthcare and social assistance field. Just looking at the chat here, covered employment is government employment. So covered employment, is not government, it's those that are covered by the QCEW. So this data comes from the quarterly census of employment and wages, and then covered employment is employment that is covered by that report, which is federal, state, local, and private. So covered would take federal, state, local, and private and aggregate those together.
Thank you.
Yeah, for sure. All right. So as I was saying, each row is going to correspond to our industry all the way to the left there. Our table is split up into 3 sections. We have our current section, our history, and then forecast. The current section is going to give us some current data, starting with the employment. This employment, as I stated before, is based on the quarterly census of employment and wages. Within that report, they do not specify between full-time and part-time workers, so this employment value is going to include both. And then this employment value is also a 4-quarter moving average to remove seasonality. So then following our employment, we have our average annual wages. And then lastly, in the current section, we have our LQ. LQ stands for location quotient, which is essentially a ratio of the employment in a region versus that of the nation. So if there's an equal concentration of employment within the region versus that of the nation, our LQ is going to be 1, since there'll be equal concentration. If we have a location quotient greater than 1, so for instance here with our 1.13, our healthcare and social assistance, there is a little bit higher of a concentration of employment within your region versus what is expected from the nation. And then on the other side of things, if it's less than 1, so for instance, our 0.75 over here for our professional, scientific, and technical services, there is a lower concentration of employment in the region compared to what is expected in the nation. All right. And then just before we move on to the next section, I also want to point out any of these headings up here. If you go ahead and click on them, it's going to sort by that heading. So if I wanted to see which sector of industries had the highest concentration versus the nation, I could click on LQ here, and it's going to show me that my management of companies and enterprises has a location quotient of 1.68 to show it as the highest concentration versus what is expected in the nation. All right, so then moving over to the right here, we have our history section. The default is a 5-year history, but this can be changed within the query window over here where it says historical years. It can be anywhere from 1 to 10 years. So this history section is going to show us the employment change over our time period, in this case, 5 years. So within the last 5 years, our healthcare and social assistance industry has grown by almost 3,000 employees. Next to that, we can see our trend chart of how that employment has trended over the last 5 years. And then lastly, we see our annual percentage growth or contraction. So over the last 5 years, our healthcare and social assistance has grown by about 0.4% per year. And then again, we can filter by any of these. So maybe we want to see which industry sector is growing the most. We can go ahead and click on that. It's going to sort by highest to lowest there. And we can see our transportation and warehousing annually has grown the most over the last 5 years, percentage-wise, within our MSA here. All right, and then moving to the right, once more, we have our forecast section. So this forecast section defaults to 1 year, but down in the query window down here, we have our projection years. We can change that from anywhere from 1 to 10 years as well. So we have our forecast section, which is made up of our total demand. Total demand is going to be the next 3 columns added together. So total demand is exits plus transfers plus employment growth. Exits are positions that will need filled due to workers exiting the workforce completely. So they're exiting to go back to school, to start a family, retirement. They're completely exiting the workforce and their positions will need filled. Transfers are positions that will need filled due to individuals transferring from one occupational field to another. So they're completely transferring out of healthcare and social assistance and they're transferring into something else, so their position will need filled. Employment growth is the projected growth or contraction over our forecast time period. And then, as I stated, the total demand are those 3 values added together. And then lastly, we have our annual percentage growth, which is the projected annual growth rate over the next year. So total demand can give us an idea that even if we have these contractions in, let's say we have manufacturing here that's looking to contract by about 900 employees over the next year, even though with that being said, we still have positions that are going to need to be filled due to individuals who are exiting and transferring out of that industry. So it just gives us a little more than just that employment growth or contraction. All right. Any questions on any of that? So then we can export this table. We can export to Excel, Word, PDF, or as an image. We can also add a little comparison piece into this table. We have this add more under regions here. If we go ahead and click that, we can add 2 other regions for comparison. It's going to default to the state and the nation when you click those, but you can put whatever regions in here you'd like to compare. And then I'm going to go ahead and hit run so we can see this. That comparison piece is going to show up in the history section. So we have our annual percentage change over our 5-year history, and then it's going to compare that to the state and the nation, since those were the 2 that we chose. But we can compare those those historical growth rates using that add more feature. Great question, Tina. She asks, is there a glossary of definitions for each of the table headings? Yes, there is. So that was that comparison piece. I'm just going to remove those. But to access help documentation on the current analytic that you're in, you're going to go to this help and resources question mark at the top. And then under this get, if there are any video, if there's any video help available, those are going to be there for you. And then there's this get JobsEQ help, and there's this help documentation. So the help documentation here is always going to link to the analytic that you're currently in. So since we're in industry snapshot, it's the help documentation for industry snapshot. And if I go ahead and click on that, it's going to start with a little blurb of the analytic, any technical notes about the data, and then it's going to go into those explanations. So current section, we have the employment, average annual wages, location quotient. It's going to go into those explanations, and then anywhere else that it links that might be helpful to you as well. You're welcome. And with that being said, let's say you go to the help section and you're still not quite finding what you need, or something doesn't seem to be working right or look quite right. We also have our live chat feature. So we are available 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. Eastern time, Monday through Friday. We have data analysts, statisticians, economists who are available to answer any questions during that time. If you reach out to us outside of those hours, we'll just get back to you within the next business day. But that is a great resource to use in tandem with those help pages. And we're there to assist with whatever. Alrighty, so I think there's a couple things here still to look at that I'm forgetting. If we scroll all the way down to the bottom here, it's going to give us the aggregate data for the industry that we queried for, which was total all industries. So it's going to give us those same data points for all industries within our region. And then any footnotes will be at the bottom there. And then we can utilize this then to dig down deeper into a specific industry. For instance, if we sort by our annual percentage change over our history, we saw that our transportation and warehousing had grown the most per year over the last 5 years. So if we would like to take a look into transportation and warehousing to see which of the specific industries underneath that may be driving that growth. So where I have total all industries, I can go ahead and click on that, and I can either type in 48 or type in transportation and warehousing, and that's going to come up for us. And then I'm going to change the NAICS level from 2-digit to 6-digit so that I can see those very detailed industries underneath transportation and warehousing. And I'm going to go ahead and hit run. And now we are looking at all the 6-digit industries that fall under transportation and warehousing within our Milwaukee MSA, and we're looking at 2025 quarter one data. So just off the bat, we can see that our general warehousing and storage, which has our highest concentration of employment, has also grown the most over the last 5 years, with a growth rate of 14.6% per year over the last 5 years. And then if we wanted to maybe order those by that growth, we could go ahead and click that percentage change, which is, hit it twice on accident there. If you hit it twice, it's going to just sort it in reverse order. So we can see some of those industries that have those higher growth rates over the past 5 years. Any questions on industry snapshot? So next we are going to take a look at creating a custom region. We have all the different region definitions within JobsEQ, but depending on what you're working on, you may need to aggregate a couple counties together, a couple MSAs, states, whatever it might be, to get a more specific look at the region that you're working with. So to create any customizations within JobsEQ, we can go to this Customs tab here on the side. And this is going to default to regions is the first one that it's going to, the first page it's going to go to. But this is where you can also create custom regions, custom occupation groups, etc. With us being on this regions page here, it's showing us all of the, or showing us some of the regions that I have created or that have been shared with me. We'll get into sharing regions and why we might want to do that in a minute. But if you are looking for a specific region within your custom regions, you can now search for it by name or by owner. So if you know that someone has shared a region with you and you're looking for it, you can go ahead and search for that by the owners as well. So to create a new one, we're going to go over to the right here and hit new. So this is going to pull up our custom regions page. It tells us that this region is currently inactive, which is great because we haven't added anything to it yet. Next, it's going to prompt you to give your region a name. And then there is this share this region. So maybe you're working on a project with a couple other colleagues and you want to make sure that everyone is using the same region definition. One person can create the region and click this share this region button, and that will share the region with everyone on your license. So every other account on your license will also have the region you create as something that they can search and utilize within JobsEQ. They just won't be able to edit it. So we can ensure that everyone is utilizing the same region definition. So next to that, we have our custom region status, which it says it's in draft mode. If you are not a fan of this base map, you can change the base maps here as well. And then we have this region resolution. So region resolution is essentially the building blocks that are going to be utilized to create the custom region. So if we have that set to county, it's going to take data from counties and aggregate those together to create the custom region. The other option available to you is going to be by ZICTA. So if I go ahead and click on that, we can see how the map has changed from those county boundaries to the ZICTA boundaries. That would then make ZICTAs the building blocks for our custom region. So it's going to be some smaller building blocks to aggregate together, and we'll look at why we might want those shortly here. All right. Are there any regions that anyone's working with that where you might need to put a couple counties or something like that together, or I can throw one together as an example?
We're in Milwaukee and we have a 7-county region called M7. So that would be Milwaukee County.
Sorry, I'm gonna apologize now that I'm
Yeah, that's okay.
gonna be slow here. Milwaukee County, cool.
And that would be Waukesha. That's W-A, yeah.
Sorry.
Waukesha County. Yeah, that's okay. Washington County.
Oops, sorry. There we go.
And then Ozaki County, that's O-Z-A-U. Oh, it's O-Z as in zebra.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, yep, that's right. A-U.
This guy right here.
Okay, yep.
Awesome.
And then Racine, R-A-C-I-N-E. Racine County there. And then
Cool.
Kenosha, right below it.
Oh, right here.
Yep.
Cool. So we can use the select tool to select that one.
Oh, okay, great. And then right to the left of it is Walworth County.
Nice.
So that would be right there. To get all of them. Waukesha, Misaki, Walworth. Well, for the purposes of this, I'm blanking if I forgot one, but
It's
that
all
works.
Cool. Well, thank you. I appreciate it. Cool. So as we showed, we can type the region names in, or you can add them by selecting. So either way, you can build those county-based regions, or if you want to add a city or some ZICDAs, whatever it is there, we can type those regions or click the counties on the map. So then for us to save this, I'm going to go ahead and give this a name, and we're going to and we'll call it. And then I'm going to go ahead and hit save here. And then that will save our 7-county region. So now we'll be able to utilize this around JobsEQ. So just to make sure that our region looks the way we'd like, we have this region preview button at the top, which is going to take the compiled region that we just created and show it as one. And then also we can export shape files. So if you need the shape file of this region, you can also export it here.
And I'm sorry, can I ask a question at this time? So let's say, I think it was Marcia or Marcy. I can't remember the name. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's Marcia.
Marcia, yes, I thought I saw. What if Marcia's like, oh yeah, I remember I needed to add Sheboygan or Watertown. What would you do? I'm just curious to add to that.
Yeah, so let's say she was the one creating this. She would just have to be the one to go back in, but you can just you can type the regions, select the regions, and then save, and it'll update the region.
Okay, great.
Yep.
Thank you.
And yeah, and then same thing if you added one that you didn't want to add, over here on the right, we can click the little X's next to them and they'll remove them from the region.
Wonderful, thank you.
Oh, thanks. Cool. Any other questions on county-based region here before we take a look at radius and drive time?
This is Kevin from Detroit. I was just wondering, so if we wanted to look at a city level region like Detroit, would that just be grouping the ZIPDAs? Would that be the best way to do it? Okay.
Yeah. So there are those census place city definitions within JobsEQ. So for instance, just to show if I can spell, it's going to be helpful. Yeah, so there's Detroit City, the census place. So that if you want the whole city with what you're doing, that's the region that you would want to utilize. But let's say you only wanted to look at like part of it, then you could break it down by those ZICDAs and say, okay, I'm looking at like the west half of Detroit City, and you could group those ZICDAs.
No, that's really helpful. Other tools haven't even had the city available, so it's just like grouping zip codes to get as close as we can. So thank you.
Gotcha. Yeah, for sure. And just another point to that effect, we also, not all of the tools that we have go down to that place level, but I will drop a link in the chat that has all the analytics by the region type. So it'll tell you which region type they're available by. So I'm just going to grab that real quick just so that I don't forget. It's one of our help pages. It looks gross on mine because I have mine set to dark mode, and I'm sorry, but it hopefully will look better when you access it. Just if you're going to be working with those places, that could be helpful. All right. Any other questions at the moment? All right. So I am going to click new here so that we can take a look at radius and drive time. With these radius and drive time, it's where the ZICDA resolution really comes into play if you're not working with ZICDA-based regions all of the time. But this can allow us to view a labor shed within a radius of a location. So you would type in the miles for your radius, and then you can either enter an address, latitude, longitude, or click a place on the map. And then drive time is going to work the same way. We choose a drive time, how many minutes we'd like it to be. We enter an address, latitude, longitude, or click a place on the map. And then with drive time, you can choose the time of day. So if you want to look at commute in the morning versus an evening commute, those different options are available to you. I'm going to leave it at average for now, just so we can take a look. So I'm going to go ahead and throw a 30-minute drive time in here. And then I grabbed the address of one of your offices in Wisconsin, which I'm going to go ahead and throw in here. And then I'm going to hit run. All right, so this orange spider webbing blob is our drive time from 890 Elm Grove. And when the custom regions compiles the final version of the region, it's going to pull data from every region that it crosses or touches. So in this case, every county that this blob crosses or touches, it's going to pull into that final region. So in this case, we barely are crossing into some of these other counties. We definitely don't want to pull data from that entire county. It defeats the purpose of our drive time. So to help us narrow it down, we're going to reduce the size of those building blocks. So instead of being every county that we touch or cross, we're going to be looking at every ZICTA that we touch or cross. So instead of pulling in that entire county, we're going to pull in the couple of ZICTAs that it touches or crosses. So the final region may be a little bit larger than that 30-minute drive time, but with the ZICTAs, we're going to get much closer to that as opposed to the counties. We do have block level data that's also available through our pro license, which would allow you to get even closer with those regions. And I would especially suggest the block data if you find yourself looking at very small radius or very small drive times. But for the general purposes, the ZICTA works well. And like I said, it's going to pull from any ZICTA that it's touching or crossing. So just so we can see what that final region will look like, I'm going to go ahead and give this a name so that I can save it. I'm going to go ahead and hit save here so that we can view the final version of the region. So just like with our county-based region, we have this region preview up here. So if I go ahead and click that, this is going to be the final version of that drive time region, pulling in those ZICTAs that it touches or crosses. So maybe you look at your region preview and you're like, hey, this is a little larger than a region that I was hoping for. Maybe you just need to dial back that 30 minutes to 25 or such to get a little smaller view there. The other option, so let's say we're barely crossing into a couple of these ZICTAs, like this ZICTA 53185 here, we're barely crossing into. So maybe we don't want to include that in our region. We can use the select tool to click it, and then we can use the advanced edit to exclude it. So just if you're working with these and you want to make your region as precise as possible, or exclude those ones that are on the fringe, this would be the way to do that. Any questions on drive time or radius custom regions? All right. And then if any questions come up as you start to work with these, that we do have resources for the region setups as well in our help documentation, but also feel free to reach out to that live chat. We can definitely help you get your region set up the way you're looking to. All right. So then we're going to jump back into some analytics, and we are going to take a look at occupation snapshot. So occupation snapshot is very similar to industry snapshot, except we're looking at occupation data versus our industry data. So then for our region, did we want to stay with our MSA? Did we want to put that service region in we created, look at a different region altogether? No preference. I'll go ahead and stick with the MSA then. So we'll take a look at our Milwaukee MSA. Anyone have a preference on a group of SOC codes to look at that we maybe work with?
We look at like a manufacturing type SOC code.
Yeah, for sure. Let's see. We have the installation, maintenance, and repair instruction. Here we go. Production occupations? No, wait,
That would be fine too. Yeah.
okay, sorry. All right, so that is 51. So we'll go ahead and zone in on SOC 51. So where we have total all occupations, I'm going to go ahead and type 51 in. We also could type in production occupations. And then I'm going to change SOC level from 2-digit SOC to 6-digit so we can see the specific occupations that fall underneath production occupations. Again, we have the option to mess with our employment type. We have our historical and projection years again, and then we can look at either the mean wage or the median wage, depending on what you're looking for there. So then I'm going to go ahead and hit run. So we can see this pool. So we're looking at production occupations within our Milwaukee MSA for 2025 Q1. And then again, this table sorts the same way by the highest employment concentration. So within this occupational field, our teams assemblers have the highest employment. And then just like industry snapshot, we're looking at the row is going to correspond to the SOC code all the way to the left. And then again, we're split up into 3 sections. We're looking at our current, history, and forecast. So just like with industry snapshot, our employment includes both full-time and part-time workers and is a 4-quarter moving average. We then have our mean annual wages, which you can change to median within the query window. And then that's followed by the location quotient, which again is that ratio of employment in the nation or in your region versus that of the nation. For instance, with our electrical, electronics, and that our occupation here, we have a location quotient of 3.06. So there's triple the concentration of employment within your region, ratio of employment versus that of the nation. So if we take our 4,000 employees here, divided by all the employees within our region, that ratio is 3 times higher than that of the nation on average. Alrighty. So then following that, we have some categories that are new to occupation snapshot. We have some unemployment data. So it shows us the number of individuals that are unemployed within the region within that occupational field, the unemployment rate. Yep, I'll export this one once we talk through it and we can see what that looks like for sure. Tina, did you want to see that as like a Word, PDF, image? We can definitely take a look at that exported in a couple minutes here. But then we have our the last within the current section is online job ads. Yep, we'll take a look at that in Excel. Thanks, Tina. So the online job ads is a sampling of job ads that have been active within the region within the last 30 days. So I know you all have access to RTI, which we are going to look at shortly, and we'll get into much more detail about the job postings database and everything involved there. But this is one place where you can get a sampling of those jobs within another analytic. So for instance, if we click on the 6 here, it's going to show us the team assembler jobs that have been posted within the last 30 days. So we have our couple jobs here. They're going to show us the job title, who the employer is, the reported location, the start date, and then the end date if the job has closed, and then any wage data that has been pulled from that job posting.
Jessica, there is a question in the chat about, is the unemployment data based on Q1 2025?
Yes, it should be current to 2025 Q1.
Thank you.
Yep. Sure that I'm not. Yeah. I say if it differs from anything that is generally noted, it's going to be found in those in the footnotes too, just for the reference. But yes, that is as of 2025 Q1. Thank you. Job ads. Sorry, I was trying to remember where I was at here. With these blue hyperlinks in here, if we click on like this assembly technician, it's going to take us to JobsEQ's version of the job posting. So if the job does get taken down, we have the body text here saved. And then the view original button is going to take us to the original job posting. Like I said, we will go over RTI in much more detail in a couple of minutes, but just to show one of those places that it also lives. This can also be exported, and once these lists are exported, you can send them to anyone without a JobsEQ license, and they'll be able to click on, utilize the URLs to the job title or to the job postings that we've saved to get to the original job postings. But just a little blurb on the RTI stuff there. So that is our current section. Following the current section, we have our history section, which we choose in the query window over here. It defaults to 5, but you can put anywhere from 1 to 10 years in there. It shows us our employment change over those 5 years. So our team assemblers have lost a little less than 500 employees over the last 5 years, at a rate of about negative 0.9 contraction per year. You'll notice there's not a chart here like there was an industry snapshot. If you would like to create that chart, you can go ahead over to this bar graph icon over here, and that will produce the chart of the employment over the last 5 years with the forecast section following after that. All right, and then we have our forecast section, which works the same as industry snapshot. We have our total demand, which is our exits plus transfers plus employment growth. Exits are, again, our positions that will need to be filled due to individuals exiting the workforce, whether that's for retirement, to go back to school, to start a family. Their positions will need filled as they will be exiting the workforce. Transfers are positions that will need filled due to individuals transferring from one occupational field to another. So they're no longer going to be a teams assembler and they're transferring to a different occupational field. And then lastly, we have the employment growth, which is either the growth or contraction that is projected over the next year. So even with our little bit of a contraction that is projected, we still have about 1,000 employees that we will need to fill positions within that occupation within the next year. And then lastly, here we have our annual percentage growth, which shows us our annual rate of growth or contraction.
I'm sorry, can you show one more time how you got the grid? I looked down.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
Thanks.
So over here on the left, there's the bar graph icon. If you click on that.
Oh, okay, thanks.
Yeah, for sure. Alrighty. So before we go on with more stuff here, we'll take a look at one of these exports to Excel. So I go ahead and export, hit Excel, and then that's going to take it to my downloads on my web browser. And then it's going to open on my other window, which I think I have to share this one. All right, so there is that exported version of industry snapshot to Excel. But essentially, it's essentially the same table. Any questions at the moment? Any other questions, I should say? All right. So then, like an industry snapshot, if we scroll down to the bottom of the table, we're going to have those summary statistics for our total all occupations, and then the specific occupation that we queried for, which was our production occupations. And then a couple other things here. I can scroll up properly. Within occupation snapshot here, since we're looking at our very detailed occupations, we're going to have this occupation profile that is an option for us to look at here. So let's say I want to take a look at one of these specific occupations to learn more about them. Let's say maybe our first line supervisors of production and operating workers. So if I go ahead and click on this blue hyperlink title, it's going to bring up a shortcut window here that we could use to get to other analytics, but it also has this option for occupation profile. So if I go ahead and click on that, this is going to give us some information about our occupation within our region. So it's going to show us some education and training requirement. Well, I'm sorry, to start up at the top here, gives us our occupation title and then a little blurb about what it is to be this first line supervisor. And then it gives us some education and training requirements. It shows us our typical entry-level education, previous work experience, typical on-the-job training. That's followed by the educational attainment profile of those who are working in this field, living within our queried region. And then it's going to show us any regional post-secondary programs that are linked to this occupation. So we have this program here, operations management and supervision. And then we have 2 universities here that typically confer awards within that program within the region. So if there's any universities or colleges or other programs within the region that confer awards or certificates for the occupation that we're looking at, they're going to show up here as well. So then along with training, we also have some wage information that can be found here. We have, along with our mean, we have the entry level and experienced. And then it's going to link our occupation to some industries and then show us what those industry annual wages are. And then lastly here, it's also going to give us some attributes that are needed if you're going to step into the role as a first line supervisor of production and operating workers. So these attributes are on a scale of 0 to 100 of importance. So if we are going to become a first line supervisor of production and operating workers, we're going to need, it's going to be important for us to have production and processing knowledge. And along with knowledge, it also goes into the abilities that we'll need to fill this role. And then any of these pages can be exported as well. Oh, yeah, okay. So then next, I'd like to show you how to create an occupation group on the fly. So we can go into customs and create custom occupation groups. Maybe you're focusing on, specific couple occupations, depending on what you're working on. So in this case, maybe we are focusing on production occupations and we want to do a little more research into some specific occupations under this group that may be either higher wage, higher growth positions, and we want to do a little more research into them. So we have these check boxes off to the side. So I'm going to go ahead and sort the table by our projected growth here. And I'm going to choose a couple that I'd like to look a little bit closer at. So maybe my computer numerically controlled tool programmers, I want to take a look at that occupation, along with my semiconductor processing technicians, maybe. Yeah, I'm interested in, just throwing a couple more on here. So as you can see, since I clicked these boxes, I now have this create group that has shown up at the top here. So if I go ahead and now that I have a couple selected, if I hit create group, it's going to prompt me to save those occupations as a custom occupation group. So I am just going to call this SOC 51, high growth, high wage. And then you can also share these custom occupation groups as well. Just like we could share a custom region, we can share a custom occupation group. That way everyone on your license can access the custom occupation group. So you can ensure that everyone is using the same group of occupations if you're focusing on a subsect of them. So I'm going to go ahead and hit save here. And then it's going to give me some shortcuts to get to some different analytics. The next one we are going to take a look at is occupation wages. So instead of navigating back to the home page, I'm just going to go ahead and click occupation wages here. All right. I'm going to remove this comparison piece to get started, but it maintained our Milwaukee, Wisconsin MSA, and then that custom occupation group that we just created populated in the occupation section there. And then we have our SOC level at the 6-digit level, so we can see those detailed occupations that we added to our group. So I'm going to go ahead and hit run so that we can see this initial pool. So we are looking at occupation wages within our Milwaukee, Wisconsin MSA. And we have our 3 occupations that I added to my custom group. So instead of just showing us the mean annual wages, this is also going to give us the entry and experienced, as well as those different percentiles. So it's a little bit larger or a little bit more wage data than what is provided within occupation snapshot. If we're interested in hourly wages as opposed to annual, we can go ahead and click hourly wages there and run, and it's going to translate those into their hourly wages. Any questions on occupation wages there or creating that custom occupation group? So then within occupation wages, we also have a different query type. So we're currently looking at the wage distribution, but we also have this labor availability. So labor availability is going to show us, we'll be able to put in a wage threshold, and then it's going to show us how many individuals are at or below that wage value and how many are above that value. So for instance, I'm still focusing on our 3 occupations here within our Milwaukee MSA. I put this on the 6-digit SOC code so that we can see all 3 of these occupations. And then I'm going to throw, let's say $25 an hour in here. And I'm going to go ahead and hit run. So we can see here between our 3 occupations that we are focusing in on, it's showing us how many total employees there are within those occupations within the region. It's showing us how many make at or below that threshold, and then it's showing us how many make above that threshold. So if I'm working with an employer and they're looking to hire computer numerically controlled tool programmers, and they want to pay $25 an hour, we're probably not going to get many applicants, if any, since the majority of them are making more than $25 an hour within our region. But if we're looking for our electronic, these guys here, the majority are below that $25 an hour. So if I'm offering $25 an hour to someone in that position, I'm probably going to have my choice of talent. But just to, it's a different way to leverage that wage data. Any questions there?
Yeah, this is Kevin from Detroit again. So sometimes we get asked by employers who are considering moving to Detroit, like how would wages in Detroit compare to the national average or in a specific location? Is there any kind of built-in comparison mechanisms, or would you just have to kind of pull it for those kind of each entity and then combine them?
I guess if you're looking for the labor availability here, you would have to pull them for each and combine. But for the wage distribution, we can add those
Oh,
comparison
great.
regions.
Okay. Yep.
Yep.
Sorry, I missed that.
No, you're good. I kind of breezed over it at the beginning. But yeah, so it's just comparing the mean wages in that respect, but it's pulling in the wages for those other two.
No, great. That's helpful. Yep.
Okay,
Thank
cool.
you.
Yeah, for sure. Alrighty. Any other questions at the moment? Alrighty. So next we are going to dive into RTI. We'll go back to my home page, and I am going to click our RTI jobs postings. So RTI is our job postings database within JobsEQ. We're currently spidering, I believe it's over 45,000 sources. Those 45,000 sources include company websites, state job board aggregators, LinkedIn, all over the place. Once those jobs have been downloaded, they are then deduplicated against each other. As a company may post their job postings on their own website, they may also post them on LinkedIn, they might post them, might get picked up by state job boards. They may exist in more than one place. So we go through and have those deduplicated to ensure that we aren't double counting those jobs. Yes, Indeed is one of the sources that we also are pulling from. Thank you, Joanne. But yes, so once those job postings are downloaded and deduplicated, they are then assigned to a specific occupation, and then we pull a plethora of different data points from each job posting. So just to go over what we're looking at here before we dig into the actual data. So we are focused on Milwaukee, Wisconsin MSA. We have our, what it is showing right now are job ads that were active during the last 12 months. So depending on what you're working on, if you're working with job seekers, you may want to see currently active jobs. If you're doing more of a research-based project, the active during may be more of an option for you, but you can specify there. And then as far as the time frame goes, we have a couple default time frames, but you also can create a custom one as well. For our purposes to look at the general data here, we're going to leave this as active during the last 12 months. But then if we take a look over at the left here where I was pointing initially, this is essentially like the stats of our data pool here. So we have about 220,000 job postings that were active during the last 12 months. Those 220,000 job postings were assigned to 884 different occupations. They were reported from over 10,000 locations. There were almost 19,000 different employers, almost 10,000 different job titles. And then we go a step further to pull hard and soft skills that are asked for in the job posting. We have years of experience that are asked for, education levels, any programs that were asked for, certifications, and then the type of job. So if you click on any of these, it's going to take you to that section of the report here. But we are just going to page through this report just so we can see the kind of information that has been pulled. And then we'll mess around with the filters a little bit and we can take a look at anything you guys are interested in. So at the top of the page here, we have this lovely chart. The blue line on the chart are the job postings from this past year. The gray line is the previous year. So you can compare the volume of job postings from this year to that of the previous year. That's going to be followed by our occupations, which again are sorted by the highest concentration. So our registered nurses here, there were over 15,000 job postings in the last year within our MSA, which was followed by our medical and health service managers, first line supervisors, and so on and so forth. This is set to the defaults to this 8-digit SOC level, the very detailed job postings. But if you'd like to see it on more of a summary level to view, maybe which occupation sector has the most job postings, you can also change the level that those are being shown at. These blue hyperlinked numbers here, if we go ahead and click on one of those, let's say our registered nurses, that's going to show us all of the jobs that were under registered nursing within the last year. So again, this is set up just like that window we saw within Occupation Snapshot. We have our job titles, the employer, reported location, start date, whether it's active or there's an end date, and then any wage data that was available within the job posting will show up here. So again, just like an industry snapshot, if we click on one of these links, it's going to take you to the JobsEQ version of the job posting, and then it'll link you to the original job posting as well. And then, as I stated before, if we export this page, the URL within that export can be accessed by anyone, even if you don't have a JobsEQ license. All right, so those are the occupations. If we want to view more than 10, we can change those max rows here. That's followed by our locations, which defaults to the reported location. But let's say we want to see them by the counties within our MSA. We can go ahead and change it to county, and it's going to show between our counties within our MSA where our job postings are. We have them broken down by employers. Yes, the job postings are deduplicated against each other to ensure that only one of each job posting is making it through. Thank you for the question. But then we have, like I said, our employers here. So if you want to view job postings specific to employers, we could click on those. We have our job titles, the hard skills that were pulled, soft skills, years of experience, education levels, programs, certifications, and then job type. So any of these categories that we have viewed in our report, we can filter by. Thanks. Have a great day. All right. So like I said, any of those sections we can filter by. And I've seen this used, for instance, with working with job seekers or even well, maybe this one's more employers. So you're working with an employer who wants to get a little more information on their competition, maybe what they're looking for in their job postings. We could throw a specific employer in here, a specific occupation, and then we can view hard and soft skills that a specific employer is looking for, certifications.
There's a question in the chat.
Yep, I'm reading that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
So Joanne asked, the postings pulled away. Yes, so if wage data is posted within the job posting, we pull that data. So those can be found in this column over here when you go into the specific list of job postings. But we also can add that data to our report by clicking wages here. And then any wage data that has been pulled from these specific job postings, the median is going to be listed. Yep, you're welcome. But yeah, so then those filters, something else about these filters here, we have this company type. That's where you can exclude staffing companies. So if you don't want to see any staffing companies, we can click non-staffing companies apply, and that's going to remove the staffing company posts from our report here. So Tina, this we don't specifically pull the benefits from the reports at this time, but if you go into the specific job postings that it's listed in there, you'd be able to view it there. But unfortunately, we don't pull those at this time. But I will make a note to the team to look into adding that in the future, possibly. A note there. But you definitely could search for an employer, pull their job postings, and view the benefits within those. But I'm sure that'd be much more tedious than if we pulled it. So apologies that we don't have that readily available as of yet. But yeah, so that was that, staffing companies. But yeah, so any categories that we looked through, you can add within those filters. And then if it's something maybe a little more obscure or a little not easily fit into these filters, we also have the keyword search. So I was working with some other clients and they wanted to look for apprenticeships. So you could throw apprenticeships into that keyword search, and then it'll grab any job postings that have apprenticeship in the job posting or within the title. Welcome. Right. What questions do we have? Is there anything we'd like to see before we talk about some alerts? Okay. So then the other aspect of this is that we can set up alerts for RTI. So maybe we are interested in our registered nurses, and we want to set up alerts so that we receive all of the new job postings that come through for registered nurses. We have this alert section up at the top. So if you go ahead and click alerts, we can create an alert. So essentially this is going to send any new job postings to your email. So we first give the alert a name, and then we would ensure that our query is set up the way that we'd like. So since we had our occupation of registered nurses in our filter in the within RTI itself, it's going to carry those over, but you can also add them when you're in this screen. So along with setting up the name and the filters, we're going to select which sections of the job posting we'd like to see. If we're working with job seekers, the overall job posting may be enough. If we're doing this for research purposes, maybe there's a specific section we'd like to see. And then we have our delivery options. So the alert itself just needs to be sent to someone who has a JobsEQ license. But once you receive that email, you can forward it, share it, and all of those links will be usable by anyone, even if they don't have a JobsEQ license. They'll be able to go in and access our version of the job posting and that original version. And then you just have to choose if you'd like to see new jobs or closed jobs or both. And then if you'd like those reports daily or weekly. So like I said, we can set up filters here if we're working with specific job seekers. And then we get those to our email, and then we can send those off to the job seekers or whoever's working with the job seekers. Any questions on that? Right. Any overall questions on RTI? Anything we'd like to take a look at? No, we've gone over a good amount of information already. But I will say, if you go to dive into RTI and you're looking for something specific and you're not sure if you're finding it exactly what you're looking for, feel free to reach out to the live chat. We're always there to assist with these kind of things. And then also there is the help documentation for RTI as well. Alrighty. So following RTI here, we are going to take a look at skill gaps. So skills gap is pulling data from RTI as well as our resume forensics tool, and utilizing those to show potential supply deficits or surpluses within the region. So here we are looking at our Milwaukee MSA. And then I'm just going to I'm going to take a look at all of our production occupations. And I'm going to go ahead and hit run. So this is the chart view that it defaults to. So it shows our possible deficits on the left and our surpluses on the right. So I'm going to change this to table view, the table view, so that we can see the values that are going into these numbers and where they're coming from. So our table view here, we can see we have some of our skills here: gauges, forklift, assembly. And then we have this candidates column and then openings. So the number of candidates is pulled from our resume forensics tool. So we pull resumes from LinkedIn. And then any of those resumes within the production occupation world, or production occupations world that have gauges on their resume are listed as a potential candidate. Openings come from the job posting. So while there were 352 candidates that listed gauges on their resume, there were only 457 job postings asking for this skill. So a couple things to talk about with that. We have things like Microsoft Outlook, Microsoft Office. I've seen like mechanical, I've seen calculators, just these very basic things that job seekers may assume that they don't need to necessarily put on their resume, but job seekers are asking for those skills. So if we're helping individuals to find jobs, there might not necessarily be a deficit in that category, but it may be something that's helpful to utilize, to add that to your resume to be noticed by those job seekers. And then Joanne asked, so the resumes are sourced through LinkedIn. We have those through LinkedIn, and they're just coming from LinkedIn. So that was that segues into my other point, that this is not a complete representation of candidates within the region, right? This is the candidates who have resumes who are posted to LinkedIn, so that it's not going to be everyone. So these are not necessarily, foolproof numbers, but they can give us an idea of our job seekers who are putting themselves out there versus our employers that are posting their job postings online. So it can give us an idea of skill certification gaps that may exist within our region. And they can also give us some insight into what our job seekers may benefit from adding to their resumes. Any questions with skills gap here? All right. So our next analytic that we're going to take a look at is occupation gaps. So let's see, occupation gaps. Unfortunately, occupation gaps is not as straightforward as our skills gap, where we just subtracted to get our values. Occupation gaps has a little more modeling that goes into it. So this is looking at potential occupation gaps that could exist over the next 3, 5, or 10 years. And then we're looking at total all occupations and our 2-digit SOC groups. So just those big overarching groups. So again, this defaults to a chart. We have our deficits on the left, our surpluses on the right. So I'm going to jump over to our table view so that we can see a little bit of the values that are going into this. But again, there's more modeling involved, not as straightforward as subtracting to get our deficits. So it's going to give us a little information about our occupation. So we have our healthcare practitioners and technical occupations. It shows our current employment, the annual demand growth, annual separation demand. So separations are those exits and transfers that we talked about earlier. So essentially that's exits plus transfers. And then our total annual demand is just the next two columns added together. And then it shows us our employment projection for 2035, so our 10 years into the future. So to come up with these values, essentially what our modeling is doing, it's taking a look at the occupational demand growth, so how much the occupation is projected to grow within the region. And then it's comparing that to our population projections for the region and their projected educational attainment. So just to reiterate, because that's a lot of words, we're looking at how much the occupation is going to grow versus how much our population is going to grow, and if they're going to have the education level required to fill positions that will be needed. And then just like with most tables in JobsEQ, if you go ahead and click on the headings, it's going to sort by those headings. So if we want to see our surpluses, we can click that to get our table to flip flop the other way there. Any questions on occupation gaps? Okay. All right. So the next, we're going to segue over to some demographics data. So to start, we're going to take a look at occupation diversity. So this is going to be demographics data particular to occupations. So I'm going to go to, we're going to stay with our Milwaukee MSA. I'm going to change our occupation back to those production occupations, and I'm going to go ahead and hit run. So this is going to give us some overview demographics about those who work within the production occupations within our MSA. Our pretty colored charts here, it shows the age breakdown of those who work within this occupation. If you'd like a different view here, we can click this button and it's going to give us a different view of that chart. And then each of these charts can be exported. So we have our age, we have our educational attainment, race breakdown, ethnicity breakdown, gender, and then education and training requirements. So this is the chart view. If we flip over to the table view, we just have to choose which category we would like to view. So maybe to start, let's take a look at educational attainment at our 6-digit SOC level. So this is showing us within production occupations, the 6-digit occupations underneath that, and then the educational attainment of those who work within that occupation and live within our MSA. So it shows us those different educational attainment buckets, the total employment, and then it gives us some overall information about the occupation. So any of those charts we saw in the chart view, we can throw on a table. Underemployment does not exist in the chart view, but it is available in the table view. So just to show that, it's going to show us within our 6-digit occupations here how many individuals are underemployed within the occupation. Underemployed is defined by the New York Fed as an individual who's in a job that has a bachelor's degree but does not require a bachelor's degree. So essentially, they're overeducated for the positions that they're in. So it shows us total employment, those who are underemployed, and then it gives us some other information about the overall occupation. But this can be great for identifying populations that could benefit from some assistance with upcycling their careers, as they clearly have some education that maybe is not being utilized to its fullest extent. Yeah, Joanne, would you like more information about the definition, or is there like a different one that you've heard utilized?
No, just, yeah, thank you for that. I know in our systems, when we hear, people that are underemployed, I think the definition might be a little different. So thank you for that.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yep, for sure. That is occupation diversity. Any questions there? Righty. So getting out of specific demographics, we have our demographic profile tool. So this is going to be demographics data for the entire population of the region that we are searching for, or that we are querying for. So here we are looking at our Milwaukee MSA. And then within demographic profile, we have a couple different tables. So we have our summary table, unemployed, household income, and region stats. So we'll start with our summary table. So our summary table here, as I stated earlier, within demographic profile, the majority of the data points are coming from the American Community Survey. If they are from somewhere else, it's noted within the table. So within our summary table, we have our general demographics, we have our population, gender splits, age splits, race and ethnicity. That's followed by some population growth information, some economic data, including labor force participation rate, work from home, armed forces, labor force, veterans. We have some educational attainment data for those that live within the region, and then some housing and social data, which is poverty level, households receiving food stamps, SNAP, disconnected youth, uninsured, those who are living with a disability, etc. There. Within this table, we can add a comparison piece. We can add any two other regions in here to compare. If you'd like to pull data for 3 regions at a time, this would probably be the quickest way to do that. But we'll look at pulling bulk data from this as well. But if I go ahead and hit run just to show, this is going to compare all of the data points within the table between our 3. It's going to present them for our 3 regions. In this case, our MSA, the state, and the nation. And then along with that comparison piece, we also have this historical view. So the historical view spans back to 2011 through 2023. So currently, the American Community Survey just recently came out with their 2024 one-year estimate. But we work off of the 5-year estimates for our data, our purposes here, which is set to come out in December, I believe. So shortly after that comes out in December, we should be updating this to the 2024 values as well. All right, so that is the summary window, or the summary table. Next, we have the unemployed table. So unemployed is going to give us some statistics about those who are unemployed within our region. So it shows us the total number of unemployed individuals, age buckets, gender split, race and ethnicity, if they're a veteran, and then their educational attainment. Within this table, we can compare with the add more, and we also have the historical view as well. Next, we have the household income table. This is going to show us the total number of households within our region, and then their income buckets, along with the median income and mean income. This table also has the comparison piece and a historical view. And then lastly, we have the region stats table. The region stats table does not have a historical view, but we can still add the comparison piece. At the top of our region stats here table, we have some commuting data. So it shows us our total employed population, those who work in the region they reside, and those that are commuting out of this MSA for work. It shows us those who are commuting into our MSA, and then our net commuters. We also in this table have some K-12 characteristics, electricity rates, and union membership. Any questions on any of that before I show us how to utilize this to pull some bulk data? Alrighty. So let's say we're interested in learning more about our unemployed population within our MSA. I'm going to go back to that unemployed table here. And let's say we are interested in viewing where our individuals who are unemployed, who have some college or an associate's degree are located. So if I go ahead and click on this blue hyperlink here, it's going to take me to the maps analytic. So this looks a little crazy, but this has taken our MSA, our Milwaukee MSA, and it's showing us all of the ZICDAs within that MSA and their concentration of unemployed individuals who have some college or an associate's degree. So the big thing here would be, so if I want to see those overall unemployment values for my region, but then I want each individual ZICTA within my region, I want to pull data for those, or maybe I want to pull data for every county within a state. I could query for the state, click on the data point I'm interested, it's going to pull it up on the maps for the whole state. So then if I go to export this to Excel, it's going to pull each individual data point. So ZICTA, this has this many unemployed with some college or an associate's degree. There's so many living here. So it'll pull each of those individual data points to Excel. But then just to show on the map as well here, we can add values to the map too, so we can view them. We can add values, name, or both. I'm going to go ahead and hit both. And then if we hit this all, it's going to add those tags to all of our regions. So the default here is percentage, but we can change that if I want to view the actual numbers. We have this little wheel here by our query. I can go over to, we can mess with any of the display settings here. I can go over to query, and I'm going to change where it says percentages to numbers and hit OK. So now it's actually showing me how many individuals are living within that ZICTA who are unemployed with some college or an associate's degree. And then, as I stated, if we export this to Excel, it's going to pull each of these individual values. So it'll have ZICTA 53036. There'll be 16 unemployed individuals, and so on and so forth. So if we have an overall region and we want to pull data for every smaller region within that overall region, within the demographics world, that's probably going to be the quickest way to do that. Any questions before I rant more about maps? All right, so whereas we can link from the demographics data to the maps there, we also can run a bunch of different queries within our maps analytic here. So we have our this plus sign here. That's how you add data to the maps. We have essentially each data set that can be found within JobsEQ. If it can be put on a map, it's found within here. So we can view industry occupation data on a map. We can look at commuting to and from, so who's commuting to our region, who's commuting out of our region. We can take a look at unemployment rates, the underemployed, GDP, online job ads, all kinds of different things. So this can be a really great way, again, if we want to pull bulk data for a bunch of different regions underneath an overarching region, this can be a really great place to do that. And also just to view any of the data points on a map. A couple other things that you can do here. Anytime I'm working with maps, I like to be able to see my county or ZICTA boundaries, depending on what I'm working on. We have these layers here, and there are built-in layers that you can add to your map. So for instance, those county boundaries, I can go ahead and hit OK. And then those county boundaries are going to pop up on my map. You can also add your own layers. You can upload your own. I worked with some clients who needed the bus routes on their, that it would benefit them to have that on their maps. So they created a layer for themselves, so they have those on the maps. Again, there's a whole lot of stuff that you can do here if you find yourself diving into it. And you need assistance, feel free to reach out to that live chat as well. Census tract. Can any data be pulled by, trying to recall, census tracts are like blocks, I believe, right? If that's smaller. I'm trying to remember exactly what census tract is. We don't have those built into JobsEQ from what I'm thinking, but you can create those custom regions. But for some reason, I'm thinking that's one that might need block data. Joanne, I'll do a little more research into that once we're done here, and I'll shoot you an email and let you know if you want to drop your email in the chat for me. Thank you so much. Yeah. Following this, I'll look into that and shoot you an email. All right. Any other questions at the moment? Righty. So then the last thing I have for us to take a look at is an occupation report under our pre-made reports here. So as I mentioned earlier, these reports can be downloaded to PDF or Word, and they're ready-made reports that are pulling from all over JobsEQ. So as we look through this, you're going to see some stuff we already looked at today, and all of it being compiled into these nice reports. So we're looking at Milwaukee MSA, and we're going to focus on our production occupations. We can choose mean or median wage, and then we can choose if we want PDF or Word. Over on the left here, if you add your company logo and company info to JobsEQ using this link or going into your profile, you can click this box and then it will add a cover sheet for you with your company logo and name. And then these are all of the sections that are going to be included in the report. So maybe you go through this and you're not interested in the education profile, you can deselect that so it won't show up in your report. You can also move the sections around using those dots. So I'm going to go ahead and hit run so this can do its thing. So as you saw earlier, when we exported our occupation snapshot, that went directly to our downloads on our web browser. But these reports take a little bit longer to run, so they are going to be found under your exports within JobsEQ. So these take a little bit, they usually take just a couple of minutes as they're processing in the background, but if a bunch of different license all hit export around the same time, it may take a little bit longer as the system works through each of those requests. But while you're waiting for that to download, it will keep working in the background. You can navigate around JobsEQ, you can leave JobsEQ and come back, and that will be ready there for you once it's finished downloading. So as I said, it should just take a couple of minutes. So as that is thinking, I'm just going to show you a couple other things around JobsEQ that you might find interesting. So we talked about the saved and the recents in our customs. The other option that we have down here so far is our Discover tab. So the Discover tab is going to give you some ideas at starting points. So if you're working in a specific view for these data, if we click on these, they're going to give us some ideas of some analytics that may be helpful to get started. Below that, we're going to have some more content from Chimera. So these are any blogs, webinars, some different research projects that have been completed using JobsEQ data. There may be some things that you find of interest there as well. And our lovely report is still thinking. We'll give it another moment. But while we do that, while we're waiting for that, were there any other questions? Anything we wanted to see in more detail? I know we've gone over a lot. Yeah, thank you for the question. So we have, for those impact reports, we have this economic impact tool that you may be interested in. So you select the region that's going to be impacted. You select your industry. Obviously, the more detailed industry, the better there that those individuals would be moving into. And then we can choose the event type to be those employees. We can throw our event size in of our 50 employees, let's say, and run. This is not going to be as great because we're looking at a 2-digit industry here, but it's going to show us the direct, indirect, and induced impact, and then show us that total, and then it's going to show us our multipliers as well, and then some industry details. The other one we have to this effect would be the what if tool. So the what if tool is more focused on will we have, if we open up an expansion in our transportation warehouse of 100 employees, will I have, are there going to be candidates to fill the positions that I need filled? So as far as those other industries, that the occupations that will be impacted underneath that industry, and what kind of potential candidates I have per opening that I'm going to need. And then if you get into any of these and you have questions, feel free to reach out to that live chat, or we also have the help documentation as well. All right, so we have our little red dot up here that shows that our export is ready. So if I go ahead and click on that and click on my completed report here, it's going to go to my downloads. We can go ahead and click on that. So this first page is where that cover page would be with your company logo and everything if you add that to JobsEQ. But we're looking at production occupations within our MSA. It's going to start off with a table of contents of here's what's in our report. It starts with the occupation snapshot, which we took a look at earlier. We have our employment by industry. So this is our industry occupation mix tool. Essentially, it's looking at our occupation and saying, all right, what industries are connected to our occupations. And then we have some wage data or occupation demographics from occupation diversity, education profile, some post-secondary linkage within our production occupations. So it's showing us some university and colleges within our region, and then some different programs that they offer that link to our production occupations. And then it's gonna show us our RTI profile of this occupation within our region. All those different sections that we looked at within RTI. And then it's showing us our skills gap, so top skills and certifications, and then any gaps that exist. And then we have our occupation gaps, which we looked at earlier. And then it's showing us the geographic distribution of those who work within our, or where people work within our region, and then where people live within our region. And then lastly, it's saying, all right, here's where we were focused on. And then here's some data notes that go along with the data points that were discussed above. Our region definition, which counties we were including, and then some frequently asked questions. So as I stated, essentially it's pulling from all over JobsEQ. So this could be a good place to start if you know you're going to be researching into a specific occupation, or if you're looking into a specific region. The economic overview report may be helpful. But they can be a good jumping point for you to say, okay, let me pull all these data points from all over JobsEQ, and then as you're going through, you might find something of interest to dive into further. And they also can be used to pass off internally or externally, depending on what you're working on as well. All right. Any other questions for me at this time? All right. So I've got a couple questions in chat. So to Kelly's question, so all the ways we can get support as we learn. So I think the best resource for support is going to be the live chat. Anything you need help with, we're available to talk through, and we usually respond within 30 seconds. So that live chat can be super helpful. Along with the live chat, we also have that help and resources, which you can get to by going to this question mark, go to the help documentation. If you're in a specific analytic, that help documentation is going to be for that analytic. But along with that, in the help section, there is also, you're going to find information on our data sources, our methodology notes, the different classification systems that are found around JobsEQ and such, but that more general info is there as well. And then within some of the more complex analytics underneath the help and resources, there are also videos that can help walk you through. And then any questions you have outside of that as well, feel free to reach out to me by email. I'm open to, answering any questions that way or setting up further training sessions. Maybe you guys find yourself using Data Explorer or using RTI in very specific ways and we want another training session on those things. We could definitely do something like that. But yeah, so we're all here to help you all be as successful as possible with this platform. So any questions you have, please reach out to us and we'll help you get what you need to get. And then Joanne asks, feature. The AI influence and impact is a little tricky at this point in time, but I don't think we have anything specifically built in. But you definitely could utilize like those filters within RTI to look more into how much AI is showing up in job postings or how much that is asked for as a skill. Kind of along those lines. I know it's definitely something that we've been, researching into and looking into more as this is becoming more and more prevalent. So I definitely would foresee, us moving more in those directions as time goes on here. But at the moment, I would say like RTI, looking at those keyword filters and such is going to be probably the best place to start at the moment. Alrighty. Any other questions? And I'm going to take a look into those census tracts for Joanne. Is there anything else that I can assist with at this moment?
We really appreciate this, Jessica. I think it's going to be a great jumping off point for those of us who are on this call today to get started. I'm sure more questions will come up. That's why I really appreciate all the ways that we can get further support. And we will be scheduling some more of these for the folks that we haven't gotten to yet. And this recording, I'm sure, Jessica, you'll let me know when that recording is available and then I can share it with this group, or will you send that out directly?
I'll send that to you once I have the link for that, and then you'll be able to send it out if that's all right.
Perfect. Perfect. Thank you so much. Any other questions?
I know it's a lot.
It is, but it's very intriguing. I really like a lot of these features. That map right away, like kind of intrigues me a lot. So
yeah,
it's good. Very good. Thank you. We really appreciate it. Any other questions before we let everybody go? All right. Well, it sounds like that's a no. So I think you covered it, and we can conclude this session. I did respond to your email about the next two. Awesome. So we'll get them set up.
Sounds great.
All right. Thank you, everybody.
Yeah. Thanks, everyone. It was great working with you.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.